Stephen Nicoyle for $5. Do you think TK is dumb enough to put the AEW Championship belt on Osprey at Forbidden Door or at Wembley? Just Monet at Double or Nothing. Gosh, I do not think that he's going to get it before Wembley. I think that personally, I wish he wouldn't get it because he just put a belt on him. But like that's coming like a freight train. I think he's going to give Swerve a win over Osprey just to shut everybody up because he actually pays attention to the things that people say on Twitter, and everyone's like, "Oh, you put the belt on Swerve just to feed him to Will." Kevin Apollo, you were about to say something to this.
The answer is obvious. Because if we're looking at how all other AEW champions have been treated, and I can't think of them all, but with the exceptions of like the duds, like yes, we can say Hangman was a dud. I don't count the swapping back and forth with Moxley. It's Swerve has not been treated like the other champions. Jericho got the belt. Jericho was treated like a champion. Moxley got the belt. Moxley was treated like a champion. MJF got the belt. Initially, he was treated like a champion. Towards the end, it kind of went off into weird, bizarro land nonsense.
Absolutely.
Joe, just by the sheer force of Joe's presence, Joe was treated like a champion, but also treated like a transition champion. It was just by the sheer force of Joe's of magnetism. The Swerve has been treated like a transition champion. As a matter of fact, Swerve, if we go off of presentation as everything, Mercedes has been presented to us as though she is more important to AEW than Swerve is as the AEW champion.
Yep. So, well, she's the face of AEW, Gav. Tony said right, Mish. Tony did say that.
She's awful, dude. There's almost no redeemable qualities about
the Queen of Cringe.
And I totally agree with you, Apollo. Swerve feels so transitional, and it's like they have an opportunity to do great things with Swerve. Yep. Like WWE fans and AEW fans like this guy. This guy puts on great matches. He has great promos. There's a great look about him. Like there's nothing that this guy has that doesn't scream a great champ.
No, you could say we're after 10. We're past 10 minutes.
I'm trying to curb my F-bombs too, but I really like Swerve as champion. It just seems like AEW and Tony just could care less.
Here's a little secret about Tony Khan, and this is why I think Swerve. Is it that he's your best friend and you love him dearly? I love Tony. Well, he gives me hugs, so I like that.
Oh, okay. Well, you are a cute little kitty, so.
Good Lord.
Swerve, I believe, was. I don't think Swerve
it's true, by the way. It's true. The Japanese people love their cats. Grace Randolph was right.
Yep.
Mish likes the cat.
You do.
I don't think that Swerve was ever supposed to be champion. And I think once he got the title, he was supposed to be a transitional champion. And I think that now that he has the title, he's not going to end up being a transitional champion. And it's all because Tony responds to bullying. That's it. Tony looks online and he sees everybody say, I can't believe he didn't put the belt on Swerve. He should have put the belt on Swerve. He's racist. Tony's racist. Look at this. Blah, 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 blah. So he puts the belt on Swerve, but he's like, but it'll just be a transitional champion. And then immediately everyone says, oh, well, Swerve is just going to be a transitional champion. You'll see it. That's not Osprey's going to win. He's like, oh yeah, well, I'll show you guys. He's not going to be a transitional champion. I'm going to let him have it till Forbidden Door, and now he's gonna draw this meaningless title reign out until Forbidden Door just because the internet said not to, or just because the internet said he wouldn't. And it's very Russo-esque. It's very fly by your pants responsive booking, and it never is successful, but he's been doing it since the beginning of AEW. He changed the entire direction of the company because the internet was bullying him about how bad it was. He can't pick a lane and stick to it. And Swerve is a perfect example of that. I don't think he was ever supposed to be champion. I think he only did it because people were calling him racist. And now he's stuck with it. The
racist thing is weird to me because is that just trolling?
Yes.
I mean, Okay, because I don't genuinely believe, for all the silliness that Tony Khan is, racist doesn't apply. Like, that's one thing. It's like,
I agree.
I don't see that.
No,
You don't get an opinion on. You don't get an opinion on this, Mish. You're white adjacent. Kevin Apollo, you do get an opinion on this. So what do you have to say?
You know what it is? It is a holdover from really like the first 100 episodes of Dynamite, where essentially the show was a blizzard. And if you are a black guy, like, listen, Scorpio Sky might as well have been a Frankie Avalon movie from the 50s. The Scorpio Sky will have just come, black guy gone.
He was Sammy Davis Jr. in the Rat Pack.
Yeah. That's it. So it's like so you know what? Yes, they did have to eat LaCroix, especially after the debacle of Big Swole. Tony, just for whatever reason, just didn't really utilize black talent well, and people kind of stuck it up his ass, because of it.
There was a thing like Tony, like only two black guys even got shots at the world title before Swerve came along. And
who did he have? Who did he have at the time? Who did he have at the time though that should have been world champion back then? Honestly.
Well, we're not even talking about being world champion. We're talking about just being used well. In general. Like,
but what was his black roster back then? I honestly can't remember anyone really.
Wasn't like Hobbs, Private
Jay Lethal?
Okay. Well, Lethal. The fact that he continues to not use Jay Lethal is the biggest sin that he's ever done.
Yeah. Well, and Jay came after the 100 days. And then even then, I don't get it. You have someone like Jay Lethal, and how do you not have something for this guy to do? Almost.
You don't even put him in ROH. Like
that's why I don't even think for him it's a black issue or a racist issue in any way. No. I think he just doesn't know how to handle anybody. Like, it doesn't matter what you are. Yeah, he has a problem booking anybody strong.
Well, exactly. Name the people that he did book strong. I think is the better question. The guys that weren't already established somewhere else,
right?
Or guys that weren't booking themselves. The Bucks, Omega, Cody, Jericho. They were all writing their own ticket. Moxley. Who was Tony actually? I think people are just so quick to push the racism button. It's just
Tony was
desperate for that gotcha moment.
For the first couple of years, Tony was just booking. New America Pro Wrestling. It was just an offshoot of New Japan, and he was just using all the stories.
Pro Wrestling.
It was just all the stories and all the characters from New Japan. Right. So you can't blame him for what he was given at the beginning, and he didn't have. I mean, although I do think Scorpio Sky, if used correctly, could have been a much bigger star than he has been.
Penta too. Penta could have been big.
Yeah,
he was just coming out of Lucha Underground. Pretty much the face of that company. So,
what's funny, gentlemen,
Go ahead.
is that we've got Swerve coming in to Forbidden Door as a champion. I don't think he's going to win that match against Will Ospreay at Forbidden Door. You want Ospreay go? Well, this is how. If I'm Tony, you want Ospreay going into Wembley as the champion, and guess who you want as his opponent? If it's not going to be Kenny Omega, it's got to be MJF. You can change the dynamic of the entire of how you're presenting this roster if you just play this thing slow. If you want to take the championship off Swerve, fine, do it. Put it on Will Ospreay, have him overcome some major odd going into Wembley, and so he can go in as champion and go out as champion. That's what I think he's trying to do.
I think the moment is you have Will win it at Wembley, but I also do not think I think Will should win it at Wembley next year. I don't think Will has been here long enough for us to be invested in him having this journey to the world title, and I think you've now put the belt on a champion that people wanted, who was over. I mean, Tony's doing his best job possible to destroy that, by booking him into oblivion. Listen, I like Christian as much as the next guy, but Christian has the perception of being an eternal mid-carder, and that's his first major title defense, and they put them on a pay-per-view in the middle of the card. Like, I mean, yes, it's second to main event, I think, is what they did, but I mean, like, they're not the main event. That's like my point. Like, not only is this guy getting shaken. Go ahead.
aren't they trying to sell tickets to Wembley? I don't know what the ticket count is, but I mean, if you tell people, like, if Will Ospreay goes on the London tour with the World Championship saying, hey, Wembley's coming up, blah 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 blah, he does the local marketing and all that, or national marketing. Do you think that that's going to be something to bring people into the stadium?
I don't think it brings in as many people as it would be challenger Will Ospreay being like, it's my home country and we're gonna do it together.
Yeah, the chase is always hotter. The chase is
way hotter.
But does Tony know that?
Okay, so I'm not saying Tony has the patience for this, because he doesn't.
He doesn't.
But I think what we're finding here through all this conversation is that maybe the best route to go with Ospreay would be the Cody route. Have him lose. Yeah, lose. Have him lose at All In, and then have him go back next year and win the title after a year of build.
But who's the opponent at that point? That's what I'm saying.
You guys are also doing this real long-term booking, and Tony is not known.
That's why I said Tony doesn't have the patience.
Booking.
Yeah.
I mean,
which is funny, because in the beginning everybody was like, oh, he plays the long game, he writes the long stories. It never doesn't happen.
Yeah, when the company's 3 months old, everything is a long storyline. You know, like
also
he's in a different area, and I think guys like Will Ospreay are going to be shot to the top as fast as they can in order for him to try and squeeze every bit of value out of them. Honestly, I'm in a weird way of thinking that might be the best thing for them. If you're waiting for these fans to stick around for another year to get a payoff with Will Ospreay, meanwhile, pay-per-view numbers are dwindling, live attendance is dwindling, TV ratings are dwindling. And I know, according to Uncle Dave, none of that matters anyways. But at the end of the day, with this company trying to secure a new deal or a better deal than the one that they've been offered, they got to do everything in their power in order to kind of hotshot the fans back into the show. You know,
on top of all that, you also have the looming specter of the WWE is coming for Europe.
Very true.
So, I agree. If you're gonna do it, but there's a better way to showcase people. Prime example, right? So we come out of the match with Roddy and Ospreay. Roddy loses, blah blah blah. He wants the title shot. It would have been more effective to have Roddy come in and complain about how he wants the title shot, and then someone tells me he doesn't deserve it, and then have Swerve go, I'll give it to you anyway because I'm a fighting champion. Right. So now everybody gets lifted. The rising tide lifts all ships. And
why do you keep calling him Roddy?
Because they kept calling him Roddy. I don't know why.
I call him Roddy too.
There's only one Roddy, and if you say anything different,
you're a liar.
What about Ronda?
Yeah, Rhonda Piper, right?
Well, Rhonda is the regeneration. She's either the regeneration of Roddy Piper as like a Time Lord kind of thing, or Roddy Piper's leather jacket is a Horcrux, and when she put it on, he took over her body. I get to keep going over forever.
What do you mean I'm putting over Charlotte? No.
So I don't put these shoulders down for anyone there, boyo. This is how I make my living. Sorry, go ahead, Dis.
How much of Tony's fly by the seat of your pants booking philosophy, because it did change. It was slower paced in the beginning, but I wonder how much of that can be attributed to how many times his booking has had to been changed because people have been injured because of their terrible fast paced style that they do all the time. And
I mean, that's
you know what
true.
I mean? Like you like, what if he does decide to do a very long-term story with Will Ospreay, and then in a random collision match, Will Ospreay breaks his neck and can never wrestle again?
Oof. Or what happens? A random collision match will probably be some dumb small gymnasium out in Poughkeepsie, New York, where he allows his wrestlers to go off and do this and do that, and potentially injure themselves.
Eddie Kingston, MJF, Adam Cole, all these guys at Mox, CM Punk, the list, Hangman Page, the list goes on. Guys that you were raising up Daniel Bryan or Bryan Danielson. These are all guys that you were pushing to the top of the card, and as soon as you're ready to pull the trigger, something happened. And maybe he's just like, we gotta go as fast as we can if we're going to keep this style up, because these guys are getting hurt. And the reason they're getting hurt is because you want to keep the style up when you don't need to. You don't need that style. You'd be more successful without that style. WWE has proven that. They spent 20 years making it so we did not have to wrestle this style. And here you are putting us back to where we were in 1998, where people had to jump off cages to get paid attention to.
But doesn't that fall on him being an amateur booker, though?
Yeah,
not
absolutely.
learning those lessons. Like, I mean, you're right. You're bringing it up with WWE. WWE sparingly uses those kind of defying matches, those scary matches, because they know that there's a potential of injury in having those high octane matches. But Tony doesn't live by those rules. He hasn't had to take those lumps. He hasn't had the experience of knowing when to allow these kind of John Moxley matches and when to pull back and allow people to breathe and allow storylines to build. So this is something that I think it comes down to him just being too green.
Yeah.
And
Well, it'd be
really
great if he could
understanding the
hire.
long term.
It'd be great if he could hire like a Jim Ross or a Dean Malenko or an Arn Anderson or a Tully Blanchard or somebody
Touche.
to be there to tell him this. But